Round we go on BBC Radio London. It's 4:42. It's the third Wednesday of the month, and that means only one thing. It's time for Ready Tech Go with James Erskine. It's something that I'm really keen to delve more into on a monthly basis. Internet is at our fingertips. The tech world is very much around us in every single aspect of our life, whether it's smart cars to self-destructing art. There's a lot going on. So I want to delve into that tech news. And James is here to do just that. Now, James Erskine is an entrepreneur. He's a tech expert. He's the founder of Rocket, a multi-award winning youth marketing agency. You can get more details on wearerocket.com. James, it's great to have you here.
It's really nice to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Never a chore. Now, there's so much to talk about. And I was looking at some of the stories and I was thinking, my goodness, there's so much to digest. But the one I think everybody, whether they use it or not, is discussing is TikTok.
Yes, it's incredible, isn't it?
You and I spoke last week, didn't we?
We spoke last week, just as the US Senate had made their vote, and it's still going through the US houses right now,
sure.
and it could be signed off by the president. And last month when we spoke, we were talking about a blanket ban on social media. So what I wanted to do this month is try to find a positive angle on what TikTok is doing for people and what TikTok is doing for people in the UK and what TikTok is doing for Londoners. And there was a piece of research that said that TikTok is responsible for £1.6 billion going into the UK economy. Right. And that can be through people that are making their money on TikTok, so TikTok creators. It could be from people selling produce and products on the TikTok shop. And what I was really keen to highlight was the fact that we hear the bad sides, we hear how addictive it is, but we don't always hear about the success stories and about the businesses that TikTok is responsible for.
It's quite something, because I was looking at the article that you, as you've already said, it's in the Times. 1.6 billion reasons banning TikTok would hurt British businesses. Didn't realise that there was that much going on in a British business.
It's incredible, isn't it? So if you look at it, there are the piece in the Times highlights a meat influencer, somebody who was a butcher, and during lockdown he wanted to find a way to get better customers and to find a way to still talk to an audience. And you couldn't find more niche content than how to butcher a squirrel, but that particular video of his has got over 3 million views. So it shows that when you find the right content and you find the right audience, you can make stuff that is absolutely perfect for an audience and as a way to make money. The article actually talks about the TikTok app, originally known as Musical.ly. Mark Zuckerberg tried to buy it many moons ago. Now it's a big rival and it's increasing in its scope, and it was either the number one or the number two downloaded app, and real people are using it. It's not just like when it was Musical.ly, an opportunity for people to look at silly dancing videos and silly sing-along videos. It's got a bigger reach than that.
So I appreciate you don't have a magic ball, a magic crystal ball to predict the future, but what are your genuine thoughts if we were to bring it to the UK, to what, as you've already mentioned, how important TikTok is for many people? Is there a likelihood of this being banned here, of TikTok being banned in the UK?
I think it's really, really difficult to say, because the American ban is all that they were saying in the US was that half of them were saying it's a ban, the other half was saying TikTok has got to change. So the key reason why in the US TikTok is frowned at is because it's owned by ByteDance, which are a Chinese company, and Chinese companies often have relationships with the Chinese government. So ByteDance effectively could share all the data it has with the Chinese government. So that's the reason for any potential ban. Now, What they have already done is started storing all of the data for US audiences on US servers. Okay. So they're already starting to place their technology elsewhere outside of China.
Sure.
But evidently that isn't enough. Yeah. And what the US Congress and the Senate have asked for is for it to be sold to a company that is US owned.
How likely is that to happen?
It would cost a small fortune to do it,
sure.
But this is a distressed purchase because if this goes through, it will have to be done in 5 months after the bill goes through.
Okay.
So you'd have to rule out Facebook and Meta from buying it because then you're looking at the Competition and Markets Authority equivalent in the United States. And they would say you can't have Facebook owning yet another massive social network.
I see.
So then you're looking at a relatively small market of companies that are big enough to be able to afford to buy that element of US TikTok and also not be competitive. So you're looking probably at businesses like Microsoft, you're looking at businesses like Apple. Now, whether that works with their long-term strategy, I'm not sure.
Sure.
Microsoft have wanted to play in the realms of social media, so it could be that Microsoft takes TikTok and does something. To answer your original question, could I see it happening in the UK? Again, could a UK business afford to take over something? Yeah. We have less issues with Chinese ownership than the US does, but it's still, I'm not sure. If you were to ask me to bet, I think there will be a way that it doesn't go through. Donald Trump has said that he won't support this bill if it comes to him when he is president. Yeah. Joe Biden has said that he will support this bill. I actually think, and they've already said this coming out of the Singapore HQ of TikTok, that there is likely to be a legal challenge and there might be a way to find a palatable solution for TikTok to continue existing in the USA.
It's one of those watch this space, isn't it? And if we continue in that same vein around social media, but if we move it to apps, you had a story from the New York Times about young people are not willing to pay for subscriptions to dating apps. What's going on here?
Well, this is a funny one. I am so old that I didn't meet my wife on a dating app.
Well, you and I are the same.
There we are. I met my wife at work, so that's how we met. But lots and lots of people are now finding, particularly with the way office romances are either frowned on, that dating apps was the way to meet people.
Sure.
And what's interesting is dating apps are now, in the article talks about, in the New York Times, the article talks about dating apps needing to find revenue strands, because the key thing about dating apps is you didn't used to have to pay for them. So as an example, Tinder used to be free. And now, in order to make money, they're looking at subscription services. Okay. But what can dating apps offer with subscription services that traditional social media can't already? So it's really interesting to see dating apps having to offer, the article quotes Match Group, which was Match.com, if you remember them, and Bumble, which make up nearly the entire industry by market share, have lost more than 40 billion in market value since 2021. And even in an age when the apps are a staple on people's smartphones, the two companies are laying off workers and reporting lackluster revenue growth. Both companies have recently brought on leaders who have vowed to experiment with new features, hoping to capture the growth investors crave. So in the US stock market, dating apps are not the hot ticket that they once were.
And that's the thing. If you're tuning into Radio London, if you've met your partner on a dating app, what are your thoughts on it? But do you think part of it is just some people shunning technology and saying, let's just go for a drink?
Exactly. I think that is the case. Yeah. So there are also other ways to meet people. So it could be that when you're going on a social network of your choice, whether that be TikTok, whether that be Instagram, whether that be Facebook, it could be that you're looking to meet people outside of dating apps.
Okay.
And it could be that dating apps, we're all in a diet of swiping right or swiping
swipe left. Yeah.
And it could be that now people are not enjoying that enforced atmosphere of dating apps, whereby it can be quite hard work. What's quite interesting now is dating apps are advertising to young people in London and saying, go on dates even if you don't necessarily find people attractive, because it will change your life. So you might meet friends from the opportunity.
Social interaction, isn't it, James?
Exactly, completely.
I think it's the fundamental core of our being, which we all realised during the lockdowns, just how much we all needed human interaction.
Completely. And I also question on dating apps, how much more do you need? So what they're offering with these subscriptions is unlimited swipes. So how many dates can one go on in a month? So how many times can you swipe the right way? So it's interesting to know how dating apps can still be a relevant part of young people's life and social intercourse, as you say.
Staying with this theme of young people, this story from the Financial Times is quite something. Why is it that young workers are refusing to leave their jobs quietly? Lots of videos on TikTok and other places going viral of people when they're being made redundant or of people resigning. What's going on here? It's become quite a trend, hasn't it?
It was something I wasn't aware of. It's been coined, the phrase has been coined quit talk, which I thought was quite good. And I saw a piece in the FT where effectively what people are looking to do is post videos of when either they're made redundant or let go from their jobs, or when they quit their jobs.
Right.
And they are releasing video content of their final conversations with their bosses to say that they are going to leave that business. Now, I don't know the reasons for this. I've speculated, and the article speculates that there's an element of empowerment. So if you're in control of that decision, you want to let people know. There's also there's a whole social network for showing off about work, and that's LinkedIn. And I wonder whether people are taking their professional existence into other social networks beyond LinkedIn. But it's a fascinating trend. And what I can't see is the key reason why people would want to keep doing this and what it brings them.
Because the thing is, you're not leaving the industry. You might end up working with that boss again or seeing them somewhere, and here you are plastering it all on social media.
Yes, completely.
It's quite something, isn't it?
And even on a redundancy or being let go, I don't necessarily understand why you would take that business meeting format and broadcast it to the world. The article talks about the very public resignation became a viral hit among young workers, many of whom were feeling dissatisfied and undervalued in their posts. In another video posted on TikTok, Christina Zumbo, this is an example from the FT article, looks shocked and very teary-eyed. Numb, she says, having just pressed send on an email informing her boss she is quitting. The job was making her unhappy, she states, as words of support from her followers stack up below. The recording features a call from HR about her decision, and then Zumbo, the example, is free. I mean, it's a strange phenomenon, and I'm unsure as to the next development, but it seems a very personal thing to share.
Very personal, and it also brings up this whole conversation I know you and I have had before of this idea of really that job for life no longer exists, and so people don't necessarily feel loyalty to a company or a firm or a business or an employer, because they're not going to be there for 20 or 30 years. I think it's just different, isn't it?
I think it's very different. And in an economy that supports freelance workers, hyphenated careers where people are doing multiple jobs and doing multiple tasks within a business, I think it's very curious. You're right. The loyalty to one business as a business owner, loyalty is one of the key things you're looking to attract from potential employees. So it's a key facet.
And now, just because of time, I really am keen to talk to you about this final story, which is about free speech and Elon Musk and the future of X.
Well, this was a fascinating story. So Elon Musk took on board an American interviewer called Don Lemon. And Don Lemon interviewed Elon Musk and asked him a number of probing questions. Elon Musk didn't like the questions he was being asked, and before that interview even came out on Twitter, on X, formerly Twitter,
yes,
Don Lemon's career on contract was ripped up and it wasn't anymore. And this poses a big question to me.
Yes.
If Elon Musk isn't comfortable asking questions about his own network on his own network, how much is X promoting free speech? It's really, really interesting to see the development of X, because it's never really seen itself as a big social network. Its numbers, when compared with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, are much, much smaller. And it used to over-index in terms of influence. And what I mean by that buzz phrase is loads of politicians read it, loads of journalists read it. So it's always had that niche, but it's not yet found anything to really base itself on as a future, and it's becoming less and less desirable in terms of a place to have social media interactions, because the speech is becoming more and more polarised, and people are leaving and people are posting less frequently.
It's going to be one that I think we will definitely be talking about when you next come in, actually, James, because it's constantly changing, this conversation around the future of X. It's always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hope that was fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was packed tech news with James Erskine, tech expert. You can get more details for James on X, formerly known as Twitter. Go to James Erskine, and on his website, wearerocket.com. If you'd like to share any of your thoughts on any of those stories, 0800 731 2000 is the number. Time now is 5 o'clock. Let's get the news headlines on Radio London with Will Schindler.